Hey guys, this is NUSensei. I mentioned not too long ago that I reached the 25,000 subscriber milestone and the 5 million view milestone on YouTube at the same time. So I organized a special Ask Me Anything questionnaire where my viewers could ask me any question about me. So I've picked out 25 questions to celebrate the 25,000 milestone, and today I'll be answering these AMA questions. Because these questions have come from my entire viewer base, I've actually sorted these out by several categories. I'll be starting off with general YouTube based questions, then I'll move on to gaming questions, then archery questions, and finally general real life questions. The first question is, how did you get started on YouTube? The origin story is quite interesting. I've mentioned some of these things before, but for those who haven't followed me as long, this might be surprising to you. My channel originally was envisioned to be something completely different. About 6-7 years ago, back when I was with my then partner, we were big followers of channels like community channels. So we love Natalie Tran, and for those who don't know, Nat Tran is an Australian Vietnamese based in Sydney, and she does a lot of vlogs. And we thought we could bring in something as well, so we kind of spontaneously bought a camera, and we kind of planned out possible topics that we could cover, kind of like skits or vlogs. And after we broke up, that didn't eventuate, but I still had the camera. So I had a few ideas, and at the time, Assassin's Creed 2 was the big thing. So my first few videos were actually merchandise reviews from UB Workshop, and then I moved on to gaming, and my first few videos were gaming videos, let's plays. That's how I actually started. I started off as a gaming channel. I know most of you watching this are archery viewers, but I was originally a gaming channel. That's why I still keep a few gaming things on the side. I've done a few other things like vlogs, some personal kind of ramblings. In the future, there'll be other things too, things like mental health and teacher life and other things. But I originally started as originally a vlog channel, but I've actually never done any of that. So perhaps in the future, there'll be more that come along, but I was definitely inspired originally by channels like Community Channel. As a subset to that question, why archery and why did I start doing archery videos? Just to be frank, the videos available at the time that I started, and these are the videos I watched when I started archery, kind of sucked. I'm not saying this is to say that the people make them were terrible and you shouldn't learn from them, but there were things like editing, which were big problems, the quality of the information, the breadth of topics, and the way it was delivered. These are things I kind of struggled with, and it was kind of funny because just recently on Reddit, someone posted the video on how to shoot from Expert Village, and this is actually the problem. A lot of the how-to videos that were available at the time were either too specific or too general, and I thought there was a big gap where I could use my skill, especially honed as a teacher, to explain things in a way that made more sense to people, and basically, make material that I wished I had when I started. So I started off with a finger tab video because no one ever did a finger tab review, and from there on, it was like, well, there's no general how to shoot video, there's no video comparing limbs or risers, and I saw a need, and that's how I started making archery videos. And since then, I've covered more general topics, but especially I'm still responding to demands from the community, and especially things like bow tiller, which back in my mind wasn't that complex. Now that it's there, people were like, okay, that's really clear, so thank you very much. That's the idea behind why I made archery videos. Next question is, what has kept me making YouTube videos for all these years? That's a very good question. I don't really think about it. So I'm the sort of guy who kind of starts doing things and keeps on doing things. I'm in for the long term. And from a personal point of view, if I don't intend to stay long term, I probably wouldn't start it. I'm not the kind of person who tries one thing and just that's it. So if people get me to say, try this new activity, try rifle shooting or try lawn bowls, I'm not going to try unless I think, well, I'm going to really do it for the long run. So Archery is one of the examples of something which I did and I stuck out with it. And the same applies to my channel. I don't really think about like not doing it. It's kind of like it's part of my life now. Eventually, as things change and time changes and I don't have much time to do things, I'll shuffle things around. I won't make as many things. But for me, it was like, it's not a matter of questioning why I'm still doing it. It's like, it's a fact that I'm doing it. And it's something which, you know, at the moment, I don't have much else to do. I don't have a family to really take care of, which I'll answer that question later. So a lot of the spare time that I do have between teaching and teaching, I'd rather do something that has some worth and value. So rather than say play games every single day or go out and party or drink every day, I want something to show for it. And I've been this way ever since I was a teenager. I wanted to have something to show for my time that I've existed. So something which I can say, look, I've learned something, I've improved something, I've grown in some way. And making YouTube videos was actually one avenue where I could push that creativity or that energy or that need to produce something. I have to make things, I have to produce something. Otherwise I feel a little useless. So that's kind of one of my reasons, probably the underlying reason why I keep on making things. As long as there's something that needs making, I want to be part of it. Next question, what program do you use for recording? This was originally a gaming question, but I decided to cover all my recording software. So I use for my screen capture, I use NVIDIA Shadowplay, or now just NVIDIA Experience. I do have an NVIDIA video card, so it makes sense to me to use this kind of software. It's free. I used to use Fraps, but I didn't have much luck in using the large lossless file, and it was kind of hard to edit using files that big without converting it. So NVIDIA captures straight to a much smaller format. So I use that for my screen capture, both for gaming and for screen demonstrations. For video editing, I use Magix. Magix is not a very well-known video program. Most people use things like Premiere or Vegas. Magix was very affordable. It was a very cheap entry-level software, fairly easy to use for basic things, kind of like iMovie but for Windows, but a lot simpler. There are a few bugs and glitches which kind of make things a little hard, but I've learned to work around them and it does everything I need. And for sound recording, especially voiceovers and commentaries, I use Audacity. On to the gaming questions. The first question is, have you played tank games other than War Thunder? And yeah, I have, of course. I've played World of Tanks. That was the first multiplayer tank game that I played, and I really enjoyed it. The idea of having like every tank imaginable in a tech tree which you can unlock and upgrade, it felt great at the time. And I played with a friend of mine, and we enjoyed it together. I mean, playing with friends really prolongs the life expectancy of a game that you play. So we played through every tech tree, German, Russian, American at the time, and when the French tanks came out, we played through that. So he went down the light tank line, the Lorraine, the Batchat, and I went down the heavy tank line. So we went up to the AMX 5120, and once I reached that, I stopped playing. I'm not sure why exactly I stopped, but basically I moved on to other games. But yeah, that was like the big hook, was playing tanks and blowing things up. I played War Thunder originally for the planes, rather ironically. I felt like I hadn't played a good flight sim or flying game for quite a while. I did play Wings of Prey very briefly, and I realised, hang on, War Thunder is basically Wings of Prey. So I played planes originally in arcade, and honestly, I had my fun, but I'm not really a plane sort of guy. I don't really like the history of planes. I don't really know much about it. And I'm not really enjoying flying around or climbing and all that, so it wasn't my sort of thing. I don't have the intuition for flying. So when I realized that Ground Forces came out, I tried Ground Forces, and I noticed two things right away. Firstly, remember, I played World of Tanks before the new physics came out, so when I played War Thunder, the first thing I noticed was, wow, the tanks handle so much differently. You can drift, you can spin out, you can fall off cliffs. That was the first hook, and I played American first, so I played the M2A4. And then the second thing I noticed was one-hit kills, and I was sold right away on War Thunder. One thing I really missed was just one-hit kills. I mean, in World of Tanks, it's hit points. And it's a game, I understand that, but World of Tanks had a lot of soft stats. Things like gun dispersion, random number generator, all these stat boosts, like you have like new engine upgrades, or you have cola, or you have all these things which ventilation was the other one, or gun rammers. All these upgrades which kind of you kind of min-max a tank, which I didn't really enjoy. I don't like spending that much effort min-maxing things. So I just want to play tank, just go around and blow things up. So I didn't enjoy those parts of World of Tanks. I mean, War Thunder simply has very basic upgrades, which you kind of need, unfortunately. But one-hit kills off the bat, that sucked me in. So I played with my friend and played for quite a while. And that's why I enjoy War Thunder. It's the damage model which gets me the most. And even though I only play arcade, I've played some realistic. But again, I don't find that I enjoy realistic as much. I just want a fast-paced game. It's like imagine World of Tanks with no hit points. That's kind of War Thunder arcade battle. I like that. I haven't played Armored Warfare, and to me, I feel Armored Warfare, it looks and feels like World of Tanks in modern times, and I just don't like hit points. I feel that for a game to be immersive, to me, I like that damage model. We have a one-hit kill ability, as with real tanks, and War Thunder has that. World of Tanks doesn't. Armored Warfare doesn't. It just reminds me too much of the grind, and it's kind of like you just have to artificially grind to get credit, to get research points. And to me, it's like I'm past that now. Back when I was young, I would play these games all the time, but now I'm a little older, I've got better things to do. I kind of prioritize. I like arcade battles in War Thunder because it's just I can play a 10-minute game, enjoy aiming and shooting and killing tanks in one hit, or getting killed in one hit and just moving on. So that's why I like War Thunder. But yes, I've played World of Tanks. That was my original tank game. I have played World of Warships, by the way. Enjoyed it for what it was, but not really, again, my sort of thing. And I did touch World of Warplanes once, and that thing is disgusting. Will I be covering planes and realistic battles? Nah, no, definitely not. Planes, no. I just don't want to. I'm not interested in flying. I just don't have that intuition. I don't enjoy it as much. I don't have the same thrill. So I'm not a pilot. I can fly in arcade, but it's just really not my sort of thing. Realistic battles, not my plan either. I mean, I can play them. I don't really want to play them because there are a couple of reasons. One, longer queue times is a big worry, especially at higher tiers. So I don't want to wait like 15 minutes for a match and then die in the first shot and then can't respawn. So that to me is just it's not why I play War Thunder. I like the get in battle, drive around, cap a point, blow things up. Realistic, I appreciate for what it is. I've played a few times. If I was younger, had more time to play games seriously, I'd play War Thunder realistic. But that's not why I play War Thunder, so I won't cover it. I know people say realistic RB. There are so many other channels which cover realistic better than I do, so I'm not going to really bother with RB. So with respect to RB players, look, I enjoy the game for what it is. That's not why I play the game. I'm happy that War Thunder has the option to play sim, realistic and arcade, so it caters for people with different levels. And I'm the arcade level. I'm happy with that, so I have no regrets not covering realistic. What do I think about boats and not ships? Having played the pre-closed beta, I actually like the boats. I played World of Warships and I liked it for what it was, and I was kind of expecting ships. But it makes sense in War Thunder's model to have boats. Ships would be very difficult to render in War Thunder's kind of model, especially when we're trying to consider that it's meant to be a combined arm of planes and boats and tanks. So having ships would be interesting, but you have to implement a lot of changes. Things like fire control, you have to do modeling for entire battleships and crews involved, and it just isn't the same as what War Thunder is. We have a small bomber crew or a single pilot or a single tank crew. I actually really enjoyed the pre-beta for the Knights of the Sea, so it's interesting. It hasn't been done before, so I want to see what Guardian does with Knights of the Sea. I think I think naval forces, having a brown water navy or at least a green water navy as a focus is interesting. You can get away with things you can't get away with ships. So I'm curious, I'm interested, so I won't judge till I see it. I've had one taste, and so far, not bad. It feels like tanks. and that's what I like about it. So I don't feel like, as much as I would enjoy controlling the Yamato or the Iowa, I probably wouldn't miss it in War Thunder, even though many people will. What other games do you play? I've played in the past StarCraft, Brood War, Warcraft, Diablo 1, Diablo 2. I've played Dota. Originally, in the first version of Dota, before Frozen Throne came out, so that was really a long time ago. I love League of Legends. I played Beta and Season 1. I used to main Jaina and Morgana, for those who are wondering. And I've played a bit of everything ever since. So I've played the occasional first-person shooter. I've been going through Far Cry 3, 4, and Primal very recently. Assassin's Creed, obviously, play a lot of that. Didn't enjoy Unity. Really loving Syndicate. Really love number 2. That's my favourite one, number 2. It still is. I've played through a few other small games. Batman, I've played a few of that as well. Never gone to fighting games. So, and I've played a bit of StarCraft 2, Wings of Liberty, but never got into the other games. So, I don't play as much as I used to. I guess when I was younger, I used to play games religiously, obviously, as a student playing games. Nowadays, I'm more focused on things like training and archery, so I find less time to play games. So I want like a one-off cinematic experience, which is why I like games like Assassin's Creed, because it feels like you're watching a movie and interacting. And that was like kind of like the appeal. It's like a nice, intriguing storyline, a nice experience where I don't have to spend 100 hours doing things. Which is why I find it hard to get into games like Fallout or Skyrim. I finally finished Oblivion like last year, and Skyrim, I've got the Legendary Edition now, or the Special Edition that they re-released. I'm thinking, oh man, do I have 100 hours? On the side, I do have a big interest in games like the Paradox games, Hearts of Iron, Europa Universalis, and Crusader Kings. I got into those quite recently, and I'm really digging those. But again, time's a big one. You can spend hours playing games like Civilization or Hearts of Iron, and just like not get anywhere. So yeah, I play a bit of everything. But yeah, I'd mostly stick to 2 or 3 games at any one time. Is it better to buy a gaming tower than a console? Just depends what you want. For me, I like PC because I can do many things on a PC. I can play games, I can edit, record, mouse, keyboard, do work. I've always been a mouse and keyboard player. I've just preferred the precision of the mouse and keyboard. So the WASD keys on my keyboard are worn out for good reason. I prefer that. Now, a lot of people prefer controllers. And again, like the idea of having a system you play in your living room makes sense. I don't have a living room I can play games, so the consoles never appealed to me as much. I've played PlayStation 4, I've played Xbox and all that, but the last generation I've kind of missed out, so I don't really care too much anymore. And I've missed out on key releases like God of War or Uncharted or Halo and all that, so I've missed out on a lot of things, but overall I'm a PC person. It just fits what I need in my life, so it has the gaming but it also has the workstation functionality. On to the archery questions. Question number 1. I want to do archery, but my parents think it's too dangerous. What should I do? That's a very good question. I've had a similar case in one of my students. That's a very interesting question, and really it depends on your relationship with your parents. If your parents are the kind of people who just stop you from doing things and say you can do this or you can't do this, or they'll force you to do things, then there's not much you can do other than ignore them. So I can't really say you've got to do this. Ideally, there should be a chance to open communication with your parents. If your parents are worried about you, that's a good thing. That shouldn't stop you from doing things. And some parents are just waiting for you to stand up and propose something that they can see is reasonable. Now, not all parents are like this, but if this is me, I would suggest you talk to your parents. If they're worried about safety, talk about why they think archery is unsafe. Fact is, archery is one of the safest sports in the world. It has no contact. It has no risk, really. I mean, the risk of injury is so minimal. You're not gonna break a bone. You're not gonna tear a muscle unless you do something really stupid. And more importantly, no one's shooting at you. And this is the strange thing with archery is people think it's a shooting sport. Same with using firearms, that they think it's dangerous. Look, shooting and archery are probably the safest sports you can do, because when you shoot under supervision, there are so many rules which are enforced that you really can't hurt yourself. So that would be what I would pitch to my parents. Let them use their logic and reason. If they can't see the reason in what you propose, then just go and do it without their permission. Who cares? Eventually you grow up and leave the house anyway, so just go and do it. But yeah, for me, communication would be the number one thing. Ideally, get them to see your perspective and show them the evidence. Ask them to explain why they think it's unsafe. If that doesn't work, ignore them. Why is shooting Olympic style more technically demanding? It's because you expect a lot more of yourself. Now, unlike shooting bare bow, with bare bow, you know that for the average person, you won't hit the target every single time. There are just too many variations. It will take years to hone your skill to shoot accurately and at a longer distance. With an Olympic recurve, you have no excuse to not hit gold. That's kind of the thing, right? So you have to pay more attention to your form and technique and consistency, because again, your standards and expectations are much higher. For someone shooting bare bow recurve or bow hunting, they're not really expecting to hit a target beyond 30 to 50 meters, because if you're hunting, then you want to guarantee a clean kill, so you won't take an unnecessarily risky shot. So close distances are the norm. Olympic style archery is shooting 50 to 70 to 90 meters, so you have a smaller target at a greater distance. Now you have more accessories and aids to make it easier, but you expect to shoot better, and that's probably why mentally you might feel more stressed and drained doing Olympic style archery. The same goes for compound to a much greater level. You have a machine that can hit bullseyes as long as you do it right. So again, that stress and frustration might be a lot higher. So to answer that question, the higher the expectation, the higher the disappointment. And that's why it can be very frustrating to shoot Olympic style or even compound. What is your most audacious shot? This question was asked in relation to Grizzly Jim, and unfortunately for me, I haven't done a lot of trick shooting, any trick shooting. Olympic style doesn't really favour fancy impressive shots, so I don't really have a really good story. My best shot, I guess, would be my only Robin Hood. Now, a lot of people will post Robin Hoods and say, look, here are two arrows together. And most of the time, it's an accident. You're not aiming to do so because it's off the middle of the target. If this is your target and you're shooting over here, and that's your Robin Hood, that's a Robin Hood. That's a fluke. That's a coincidence. But my favourite shot, and I've got this framed in the clubhouse actually. I've mentioned this on my Facebook page before. One of my club guys, Alex, he shoots compound and he slammed a shot right on the gold. I shoot recurve, and I shot my arrow right into the back of his arrow. Now, normally, compounds wreck other compounds, or they wreck recurves. It's so unusual for me to see a recurve get a Robin Hood on a compound arrow. And the fact that both arrows were right in the middle, that's like the definition, literally, of a Robin Hood. Someone shoots gold, you shoot the back of their arrow. That's my favourite shot. I mean, it was a very expensive Robin Hood. That's my ACE. That's like $40 an arrow. And he shot a Maxima, which is also quite expensive. And the irony was that his Maximas had that special ring knock, which was meant to protect against Robin Hoods. What we found out was, yes, it will stop your own arrow from going through, but because my ACs were narrower, it basically went down halfway down his shaft. So that was a pretty cool coincidence. We didn't realize at the time, but when we walked out, it's kind of like, is that arrow longer than usual? And that was probably my most audacious shot. Was it intentional? Or partially. We were both aiming for gold, but the fact that both hit gold and hit each other, that was my favourite Robin Hood and probably my favourite shot. On a side note, Alex did leave the club and join a different one. I'm really sorry, Alex, I didn't mean it. What's the best colour for bowstring? Honestly, there's no best colour. some people will swear by high visibility colors like fluoro pink or fluoro green, or even white. And I guess for some people you need the contrast to see your string picture, but honestly I don't think there is a best color. You will see that blur of the string in your sight picture regardless of what color it is, and you mostly won't pay attention to it really. If anything, you might see the serving, but again, I don't think string color is that important as a choice. What have you gained from YouTube in regards to archery? For me, doing YouTube as well as being an instructor in real life have kind of really helped each other. So my exposure to a lot of beginners doing archery for the first time and progressing through the skills has given me a lot of insight as to what people need for online reference, people who don't have coaches or clubs nearby. So that's helped a lot the other way around. But interacting with people on YouTube has given me a lot more insight as to how to explain things in different ways to people in real life. So that's probably been the most beneficial gain, is working with beginners on both the internet and in real life. On a personal level, it's given me connections to people I wouldn't normally meet, because normally you have to be an exceptionally good competitor to get these opportunities, and I'm a pretty bad shot as it stands right now, but being able to do things like product testing and research and doing giveaways and working with companies and magazines, that's been probably the most surprising thing that archery on YouTube has given me. And of course, a chance to give something to the community, so providing a resource which in decades time will still be there for everybody to see. Who do you think is responsible for all the archery thefts? A few years ago, there's this huge sequence of break-into clubs around the country, which is kind of really strange, because why would you sell archery gear? Most of this gear is unusable to other people. So my theory are basically it's people who either steal things because they want to steal things, so kleptomaniacs, or, and my other theory is drug addicts. This is the case for the small local archery sheds. They see a fence there, they see a shed, they want to break in, and often they go to things like the first aid kit for drugs, and they might be fighting a quick buck to find more drug money. That's my theory. Then again, there are some pretty serious break-ins where people grab by trucks and they pull the locks down, the gates down, so that's a little different. But archery doesn't really sell for that much. It's really easy to track some of these things. Most of the gear they steal are beginner gear. They're just like $100 a bow, so they really don't sell for much. So I'm not entirely sure who or why. Conspiracy theory, I don't know, but yeah, my first guess would be for the small break-ins, just the people off the street who are getting money for their addictions. For the big burglaries, I don't know, people making a quick buck. How important is a good tune? Depends on what you expect to do. If you're just starting out, a tune isn't that important. In fact, most bows are pretty good out of the box. If you're trying to maximize your score, where 1 or 2 or 3 to 5 points might be the difference between becoming 5th and team selection for the nationals, that's when you really want to make sure that your bow is working the way it should. Now, some people will swear that they've never tuned their bow, but for the most part, most coaches will say, look, you've got to make sure your bow's in tune. And within reason, again, like if you don't expect to be shooting like 9s and 10s at Olympic level, then you don't need to have a bare shaft tune at 50 meters. But some people really want to micro tune because they know their form is good and their bow is letting them down. That's when if you feel that you can't get any better from your technique and your form, then that's when you probably want to tinker around with the bow and spend more time tuning and making sure it's okay. Is the little rest on the finger tab for the pinky finger really needed? The answer is no. Some tabs like the EZR and the Civic Seika, they do have that little finger rest, but you don't need it. It's there to help for some people who need to keep the shape of their hand, but there shouldn't be any pressure pushing down from the little finger. If you're doing that, it's going to cause some torque in your hand. That's going to make the release a little more static. So most people will shoot without it, and these can be adjusted and removed. So if you need it, it's there. If you don't have one, you're probably better off. What's my preferred knock fitting? I've only used pin knocks for my Eastern arrows. I don't really think about it. I mean, I just get pin knocks because, Eastern AC pin knocks, X10 pin knocks, chuck them in. They look alright, easy to change things out. They do make a difference. One of the main appeals for a pin knock is it's meant to stop Robin Hoods. Now, I don't hit my arrows that often, but when I replace all my ACE arrow knocks, I noticed that I reckon probably a third of my pins had notches where I've cracked the knock itself and I've actually damaged the pin. So likely I have saved myself some broken arrows by using pin knocks. So I don't really think about it. I just use them because they're good, and they do have the benefit of protecting against unwanted hits. Would you rather shoot one horse-sized 3D duck target or 100 duck-sized 3D horse targets? That is a funny. I love this question. If I take this question literally, the one horse-sized duck target. One, because it'd be kind of cute to see a big horse-sized duck. But secondly, like archery, literally shooting one target. There's not much different from what I normally do. But if I was to take this question for what it is, and that's the time management style question, would you rather do 100 small things or one big thing? I am the one big thing kind of person. As much as I like getting through things like bang, 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 and bang, I'm the sort of person who feels overwhelmed when I have an excessive list of things to do. I'd rather have one general goal to aim for and chip away at it so I can work on it over time. So yeah, I prefer the one large goal rather than the 100 smaller tasks. Now for the general lifestyle comments. Am I into cosplaying? And the answer is no. The main reason is that I'm not really a big fan of specific things. I'm not the sort of person who really loves anime or really loves Batman or Superman or The Flash or whatever. So I don't feel like there's connection between me and the source material. So I wouldn't go to things like PAX, even though it's hosted here every now and then, because I'm just not that interested in following along. So I miss out on a lot of things. Second reason is I don't feel I can authentically be certain characters. I mean, I like certain characters, but I can't be them. And I feel if I can't be them, I'm not really like cosplay. I'm wearing I'm playing dress ups, but I'm not really being the character. So I need the voice, I need the accent, I need the vocab. I used to do theatre. So if I can't do it right, I don't feel I should be being that character. The third reason is, again, a lot of my connection with anime, especially, comes from my former partner, and that's when I would have actually tried doing it. I want to be able to customize and make things. Because I can't do so, I feel very limited in what I can authentically recreate. So I feel a little plastic and I don't feel comfortable doing it anymore. And the fourth reason is there simply aren't that many characters that I really look like, really. I know I'm the Asian guy with glasses, so it's kind of like half anime characters, but the really interesting ones, unless I wear wigs or dye my hair, I don't really think I will look like that. So yeah, I don't feel comfortable doing it. I admire it, but really, unless I can kind of make it myself, which I can't at the moment, I don't really care to, then no, I'm not really into cosplaying. Another reason is I don't want to have a costume that I'm only going to wear once. I'd rather have something to wear frequently, and that's why I like the casual streetwear things from companies like GB Workshop and Mustard Brand, because they have the style and look, but they look good as it is when you wear it for work or you wear it on the streets rather than you're dressing up as somebody. So I like that kind of idea where I don't have to dress as Batman to wear a Batman jacket, that sort of thing. Ideally, I'm a big fantasy geek, and I like Lord of the Rings stuff, for example. So ideally, I'd like to see Lord of the Rings jacket, like a black leather jacket with a white tree of Gondor on the back or the front, and it will look absolutely amazing. But as it is, if you're looking for Lord of the Rings clothing, you're either looking at t-shirts or you're looking at kids' Halloween costumes. What's the worst job I've ever had? I actually haven't worked that many jobs. I've been very stable. I haven't moved around that much. In high school, I didn't work. I just studied my ass off because Asian parents and all that. after high school, when I went to university, I did private tutoring, which is okay. Some very weird tutoring experiences, especially from tiger mums. That's a bit different. I did work as an exam marker, which is the most boring thing, but it was something like it's the one task you do over and over again. And I didn't mind that actually. It was a good experience, paid pretty well. The other part-time job that I had, I worked in a tuition center, which I can't name, but a lot of people that I teach went to it. It's basically how it works was, there's a prescribed program, and everybody from like age 4 to age 16 follows this program with English and maths. And it's a little frustrating because as someone who's trained to be a teacher, I want to teach people, but this program, you can't teach them. They sit there, they go through it by themselves. If they get it wrong, then you mark it wrong, you give them back, and they have to keep on getting it right. Now, for things like maths, it kind of works because it's kind of right and wrong. But when I was marking the English ones, and like a lot of the things were very ambiguous, there had to be one exact correct answer, even though there were, other ways of expressing it. So I found it very hard because kids were crying because they weren't really getting it right, and there was simply no interaction allowed. You had to let them do it until they got it right. That was the mantra. It's not about finding the answer; it's knowing the answer. If you Google that, you'll probably find out what I'm talking about. But that was of the jobs I've had, that was the least pleasant because I make kids cry, and as a teacher, I don't want to do that. And in my classrooms, I don't do that. So I felt that experience kind of really shaped the way I saw teaching and interaction and relationships. Didn't like that job. Was very dissatisfied. Left. It's kind of like I quit and was kind of like fired at the same time. I wasn't really fired. It's more like I don't want to do it anymore, and the boss was gonna not roster me anymore. They're kind of like, we don't need more people for next year, which basically don't come anymore. It's very kind of like cash in hand sort of thing. So it was a mutually beneficial arrangement, and yeah, that was what I didn't really enjoy. What are my long-term plans of the next few years? I honestly haven't thought about it. I don't really think long-term. I don't really think of the next holidays. I mean, you think like teachers oh my god, school holidays are in 5 weeks. I don't think about it that way. Normally I work with my head down and don't pay attention to my surroundings, and then when the holidays come, it hits me like, oh yeah, there's no class on Monday. So I don't really think that far ahead. I kind of think more of here and now. Like, what can I do now to become a better person? So I don't really have a long-term plan. I mean, in my career-wise, I'm very stable, and I'm probably going to stay in my career for years to come. And it's quite impressive because I've been teaching for 9 years now. I don't look like I'm teaching for 9 years, but I have. And that's probably not going to change. I don't really have ambitions to climb in rank. I don't have a need to. I don't really think my strengths lie in climbing up in the education hierarchy. So admin doesn't really suit me. Can I do it? Probably. But for me, I think my unique skill set is in the classroom, interacting on the front line of education. That's my role I see myself in. So that probably won't change. Archery-wise, probably more training, hopefully more competition, but again, very ambiguous. I want to see a bit more structure, especially my club, which we're trying to reform and reorganize, and hopefully get more people to come along with us. And if in the long term, if I feel comfortable enough with my shooting, I'm happy where I am, then I'll probably travel a lot more. I haven't really traveled. I skipped that phase of my life where I did a lot of traveling. So when I'm older, I've got more money, time, experience. I would like to travel to different countries, different clubs, and shoot at different events. But that's kind of way down the track. I'm not in any hurry at the moment. What truly pisses you off in daily life? Oh man, that question. I love this question. The one thing that pisses me off, whinging. I hate whinging. I unfortunately do work in an environment where there is a lot of whinging. Not from the students, by the way, but from other staff. And this isn't like a particularly nasty thing, but it just really gets to me because, as someone who suffers from anxiety and depression, I'm surrounded by a lot of negative bias. I mean, you wake up in the morning and you're already judging yourself as not worth living. So you're trying to break through that, right? So you want to be around positive people who support you, people who encourage you. So you need to really stack the positivity on top of your inherent negativity. So when you go to work and people are complaining about small things and being really negative, not about you personally, but just about things in general, it kind of really digs at you. It really eats you away because you're trying to be positive. And it takes a lot of perseverance to be bigger than that and to not fall into the whinge trap. Because if you start whinging, especially when you're on the edge of anxiety, then it's going to make things worse. You've got to think positively. You've got to breathe in, see for what it is, and move on. And like the other impact, and this is a big mental health thing, is you want to talk to people, right? Like people who are introverted or shy or have depression, they actually want to talk, but they don't have people to talk to. So I want to find someone who I have a relationship with, right? So if someone is like making this huge ramble about how bad the last episode of The Walking Dead was, I don't feel like I'm valued, because to me, I'm trying to assess where I am with my life, or whether I'll find a new partner, or whether I want to do something big in my life, in my career. And the people around might be talking about TV shows, or movies, or kids, or homework, or coffee, especially coffee. This coffee's really bad today. I mean, like, it's just coffee. I literally don't give a crap about coffee. So, hearing this every day is what really gets to me. It annoys me. I tolerate it, but as of late, I've been moving my workspace to be rid of this. That means I'm away from people. That means I'm not as close to people. I accept that. I'd rather be around people who, it's banter, but it doesn't really harm anyone. It's just that when you always hear it, and the first thing you hear is this coffee's really then you're just like, who cares? That's the idea behind why I hate whinging. Like, I like it when people talk to you, like, one, because they trust you, but secondly, like, they want to do something about it. So for me, if someone tells me the coffee's bad, don't drink it. That's what it is. It came to a peak once where we were doing this training session. It was an online training course. And some of the questions, it's like doing your driving test. It's like some of the questions are really easy, but the way they ask it's really convoluted. And I went through it. It was like, oh, okay, that's pretty weird. But I went through it, did it, passed it, not a problem. And someone else, one of my colleagues, did the same test and had the same problems. But she was swearing her head off, like, not intentionally, like, criticizing and being dramatic. It was just the way she reacted. Kind of like, oh, this question's really. And then she turned around. I turned around and went, is this that one question? Yeah, it is. It's. And I snapped. I actually snapped at one moment. I was in bad headspace already. And having someone shout at me and swear at me, it actually tipped me over the edge. And I was into fight or flight mode. And I chose flight. I mean, it was a very split decision. A lot of people fight back because it's very hostile. It comes at you. It's kind of like, it's. And it's like, whoa, relax. I didn't make this test. I'm just asking a question. It just feels really, really aggressive, and it wasn't intentional. It was just one outburst. But I walked out. I unplugged everything. I said, look, I'm sorry. I can't handle this. I'm walking out. And the reality is, when you go through this, you have to establish what you need in your life. And to me, even though there's no malice behind it, there's no personal intent, I don't need negativity or aggression in my life at that point. So I walked out. And I've seen colleagues, who I respect very much, do the same thing. When they go, look, I don't want to be part of this, I'm walking out. And to me, that was a big sign. I overcame a lot of my negativity. But it's also something I accept that, look, I don't like whinging, because whinging can turn to helplessness. And I feel that part of my role, especially coming from my background in mental health, is if you need to empower people, you need to feel empowered. So whinging is kind of like the daily grind where I can't do anything, help me, my coffee sucks. I hate that. I feel that if you can't do anything about it, then think of something you do about it. So yeah, that's my daily grind annoyance. It's whinging. What do I teach? English, history, high school. Can't really get much more detail on that. Actually, I can. There were a couple of subjects which I either created or I modified very heavily. One of them is called Movies, Mind and Meaning, which is basically philosophy based on films. Basically, we watched things like Truman Show and The Matrix, and we looked at things like reality, identity, artificial intelligence. That was quite interesting because using movies as a source of knowledge and discussion was quite a good experience. And recently, we were trying to create more subjects. So I pitched a history version of this subject. So I called it History, Film, Fact, and Fiction. So we would watch movies like 300, Saving Private Ryan, that sort of thing. And we would assess and analyze the Hollywood side and the historical side. That was quite interesting because a lot of people, I mean, you obviously, having a teacher show 300 in class as historical film is pretty awesome. That was the idea, was to use very popular films, not boring old dramas, but current popular films, and use them as a way to discuss things. Because we don't have time to do that in a real curriculum. Having an elective subject where you have the option of watching all these films and talking about them, that's kind of like you wish you could do it, and that was the idea. So yeah, that's been really popular recently, and yeah, that's what I do. What other hobbies have you had or have? I used to be a bit of a self-taught pianist. I play a few things. I don't play much these days. I've lost that skill. So I used to love playing piano. Even just playing the same song over and over again. Especially from the classic video game soundtracks. Really love Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI, a lot of Square Enix stuff is really good. So those things I really like to enjoy. Just like it felt really calming. It's like for a long time piano was, even though I wasn't very good at it, it was the one thing I did to relax. Just like the feeling of playing good music kind of really put me into a good headspace. I was very stressed out of learning it though, but playing it felt good. I used to draw a lot. Yeah, I did draw different things, anime or anime-inspired art styles. I've kind of ventured out to different things since, and that's actually benefited me in real life. I was involved in graphic design for the school. I designed the school logos, which is pretty awesome. And the other thing, apart from gaming, obviously, I used to be a big writer. My first dream, ambition, as a teenager was become a novelist or a writer, and I have a unique background, and partly like the two things I wanted to write. The first one was an autobiographical inspired thing, kind of like for those who've read Growing Up Asian in Australia by Alice Spoon, who I've met by the way, just really nice. That was the sort of thing I wanted to be inspired by and write, using my background and my history. The other thing I wanted to write was kind of like historical tech thriller, but I had an offshoot actually. One of my fascinating ideas was I wanted to do picture storybooks based on World War II, and my idea of a story was to illustrate the story of the man who never was. And if those historically, before Operation Overlord, the invasion of Normandy in 1944, the Allies planted the body of an unknown man. They drowned. They put him in the sea, and they put fake documents. So his body washed up in Spain to be recovered by Spanish authorities. We passed on to the Germans, and that would mislead the Germans to think the Allies were landing somewhere else. And I wanted to depict the story as the man who never was, and kind of create a whole fake story in a picture storybook kind of way. I was inspired by like people like Sean Tan, John Marsden, that sort of thing. So yeah, writing is still something which I still harbour. I still can do, but it's something I don't publish. I do have some short stories which I can release if people are interested in reading some of my work, but I haven't written a proper work for quite a while. But that's something I still like to do and would like to do in the future. Alright, last question. Do I have kids and am I happy? Judging by the lack of noise, no I don't. And am I happy? No, I'm not. I'll say it right now just because, rather than wear a mask and pretend I'm really happy, while right now I'm in good headspace, I know I'm not happy in my life. I'm content, but I'm not happy. And for someone like me, I was raised the idea of success being the driving factor, not happiness. I didn't grow up in a happy family, and I don't really know what happiness means, because for me, the families I've been with, my family and my former partner's family, it's been a lot of bad blood and drama and a lot of negativity, so I'm not used to being in a happy environment. So for me, I'm just putting my head down, working hard and trying to make something out of my life rather than feeling happy. If I get happiness later on in life, that's fantastic, but I don't feel like it's my priority right now. I want to build something successful and stable first, and then reap the rewards later. So the short answer is no, I'm not happy. Is it a bad thing? Not necessarily, but something I accept as I don't have it right now, so rather than wish I had it, I'm going to work hard for it. And that's 25 questions. Wow, that's taken quite a while. Hopefully it's been interesting for you guys to find out more about me. Because ultimately, I'm not always going to make archery videos. I'm not always going to make gaming videos. I want to make more like me videos. And this is a one-off, but perhaps if you want to see more of this in the future, perhaps we can organize a monthly AMA or quarterly AMA. And I'm quite happy to talk about myself because I think I bring something unique to YouTube, to what I do, to my work. So the more you ask, the more I'm happy to share things. So again, thank you for your views and your subscriptions and your likes and your shares. These things, I'm not the entertainer who needs like thousands of people to approve what I do. I'm just providing my service mostly. But it's nice to interact with you and kind of get to know you guys and meet people who I wouldn't normally meet otherwise. So again, thank you for your loyal following. I hope you enjoyed this video. Anyway, this is NUSensei. I'll see you next time.